My greetings to the Minister of Agriculture and the Deputy Minister. Welcome you once again on my behalf and behalf of all the honorable members in the House. We'll move on to the next speaker, and I'm told that the Honorable MEC Siwe is in a very unstable area in terms of a data connection. So we'll allow her to contact, and then if she needs to switch off a cell phone, then we will allow it. So I will now welcome the Honorable MEC from the Eastern Cape, Honorable Kontiswe, to join us.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chair, to the Honorable House Chair, the Honorable members, and the Minister and the Deputy Minister. I greet you all this afternoon. Please pardon me in terms of opening my video. I've tried to connect and waited in the loop for more than 30 minutes until I had to connect. So I think it's good enough for me to show in the video. My apologies. Yes, we have received the invitation and appreciate it. I would like to confirm myself on the topic given, that is accelerating land distribution.
Honorable MEC, unfortunately, your sound is very unstable. We can hardly hear you clearly. Maybe if you can move to an area where you can get better signal, then we can allow you to continue with your debate later. I will move on to the next speaker while the Honorable MEC gets a better connection. So I'll call upon the Honorable Chirwa Mpongose to debate for 15 minutes.
Thank you, Chairperson. Greetings to all the sympathizers of the economic emancipation movement, the only one of its kind in the Southern Africa under the stewardship of the Commander-in-Chief, Julius Sello Malema, and commissars of the EFF. This debate on accelerating land redistribution and agricultural development for inclusive growth is one the EFF takes with utmost seriousness, as it is directly linked to the EFF's first non-negotiable cardinal pillar, expropriation of South Africa's land without compensation for equal redistribution and use. For over 11 years, the EFF has remained true to its foundation, consistently reminding society that the premise of our demise as Africans has comfortably rested on the continuous theft of our land by settlers who are still in possession of it today. Until this reality is reversed in its fullness, until efforts are put in place to avoid this historical debauchery from ever occurring again, all narratives surrounding the development of this nation on agricultural development and land redistribution remain a lie that is meant to lock our people in perpetual servanthood at the mercy of those who are beneficiaries of land theft crimes. There are some dressed in blue who pretend to have a disdain for crimes pertaining to land occupations, land invasions, and land theft. However, in their supposed hatred for this crime, they are content with the land invasions that occurred since 1652. They see no urgency to address the land theft crime of the 1913 Natives Land Act that saw thousands of black families being forcibly removed from their land by the apartheid government. They defend the 1936 Natives Land Trust and Land Act of South Africa today. Perhaps more truth should guide the politics of why they hate the land invasions and occupations of 2013 when the EFF was formed, but defend the land invasions of 1913 led by the apartheid government. They hate the land occupation program of the EFF in Oliver Bush and Centurion, Blue Hills in Midrand, Whalers Farm in Elandsfontein, off the Golden Highway near El Dorado, Orange Farm, Waterval, Boven, Delmas, Bethel Extension 5, and numerous other progressive land occupation programs of the EFF. However, Ondlebes Kanyilanga, adorned in blue and no educational qualifications, absolutely adore the land invasions that saw the best parts of the Western Cape given to whites only. They love the land invasions in KwaZulu-Natal that saw black people being given rocky lands and the best agricultural land being preserved for white elites. They love and will fight us to the very grave in defense of the land invasions in Gauteng, Limpopo, and Mpumalanga that gave over all the minerals, the gold, manganese, chromium, diamonds, coal, and copper to whites only, whilst the black people are meant to only serve the purpose of dying underneath the belly of the earth as miners. They claim to give us our daily food every day and supposed food security in the agricultural sector, but conveniently forget that 80% of the labor that creates food that we eat in Africa is in actual fact our mothers, black women, whom in the Eastern Cape and Kokama still get paid a packet of cigarettes and a carton of milk after a week's labor worth on our stolen farms. These are the same people who rejected a motion in Parliament calling for Parliament to intervene on the land invasion against the Molefe family in the West Rand by Prestige Park, a land invasion crime committed in 2023. But however, they also feel that an entire generation must pause on its generational mission to recoup stolen land led by the just and all races people loving EFF. You can't love the land invasion of 1936 that was done through the barrel of a gun and hate the peaceful land occupation led by the EFF of Nana's Farm and Mountain City. This essentially means that you are the very thing you accuse us of. You are the ones that are racist. You are the racial dividers who deem black people unworthy of living, farming, and owning the land of their forefathers, whilst you protect the proceeds of colonial and apartheid land theft crimes against humanity. The government of President Ramaphosa in 2024 chose those who loved the land theft of 1913 and rejected us who are reversing land theft crimes since 2013. We will never be ashamed of our land occupation programs. We will always choose justice over crime as the EFF. The color blue represents preserving the land theft of 1913 and 1936, and the color red represents expropriation of all land without compensation for equal redistribution and use. They don't want us to occupy land like their grandfathers who did the same thing, because they know that beneath that land lies minerals that are yet to be uncovered. On that land lies the economic liberty that they enjoy on a daily basis. The EFF's approach to land expropriation without compensation is that all land should be transferred to the ownership and custodianship of the state, in a similar way that all mineral and petroleum resources were transferred to the ownership and custodianship of the state through the Minerals and Petroleum Resources Development Act of 2002. This transfer should happen without compensation and should apply to all South Africans, black, colored, Indian, and white. Under this legislation, no one should be allowed to own land forever, because those who have money can over time buy huge plots of land and use them for counter-developmental private purposes, such as using agricultural land for game farms. Nizothi nivuke ekuseni, and you find that Elon Musk owns the whole of Tshwane because the poor sold it to him. This is why privatization of land, as proposed by the expropriation bill, is a threat to state sovereignty and protection of our people. In line with the Freedom Charter and a new vision of agrarian revolution, the state should also provide implements and related extension services to help those who work the land to use it productively. Furthermore, the state's procurement of food should prioritize small-scale farmers so that small-scale farming becomes a sustainable economic activity for the majority of our people. The state must buy more than 50% of the food for hospitals, prisons, schools from small-scale farmers in order to develop small-scale agriculture. To boost sustainable demand domestically, the South African government should pass legislation that all the food bought by the government for hospitals, schools, prisons, and the like should be sourced from small-scale food producers. This in itself will create sustainable economic activity and inspire many young people to go into food production, because there will be income and financial benefits to boost other economic activities out of it. The economy of food production needs a well-structured protection mechanism and subsidies in order to protect jobs and safeguard food security. Most developed and developing nations are actually doing the same. With a clearly defined and well-structured mechanism, South Africa, which is oddly a net importer of food, can realize the development of the food economy in a manner that exceeds Brazil's. This will add to sustainable job creation efforts, not the kind of short-term jobs created through the infrastructure development. This will, of course, require land reform to be expedited and water supplies to be guaranteed for the sustainability of this important sector of the economy. Government must lead a massive program of food production by ensuring that all arable land in South Africa is placed under production. Government must establish and capitalize agricultural development nodes in each of the 9 provinces to increase the quantity and quality of agricultural production in these areas and create 1 million agricultural jobs. If the EFF was government today, we would maximize agricultural productivity and massively invest in agro-processing in all the 9 provinces through the following initiatives. We would maximally build and support the cultivation and agro-processing of citrus products in the Mopani region, the cultivation of agro-processing of tomatoes in Mopani, the cultivation and agro-processing of avocados, bananas, and other products in the Vembe region of the Limpopo province. We would maximally build and support cattle farming and the agro-processing of the resultant products in the Amahlati region, cultivation and agro-processing of maize in the Chris Hani region, tea in the OR Tambo region, cannabis for industrial and medical processing in the OR Tambo and Alfred Nzo regions of the Eastern Cape, and alu products in Amatole and OR Tambo. We would build and support the cultivation and agro-processing of maize and cherries in the Thabo Mofutsanyane region in the Free State province. We would maximally build and support the cultivation and agro-processing of dry beans, maize, and soybeans in the Gauteng province. We would support the cultivation and agro-processing of potatoes and tomatoes in the Namakwa land and Pixley regions and grapes in the Sianda ZF Mkawu region in the Northern Cape province. The EFF would maximally build and support the cultivation and agro-processing of sugarcane in the eThekwini, Ilembe, and Zululand region, maize in the Umzinyati and Utugela regions, citrus and bananas in Ugwe and Umkhanyakude regions, cattle farming in the Amatuba, Utugela, and Zululand regions, and timber in Umkhanyakude and Sisonke regions in KwaZulu-Natal province. We would build and support the cultivation of agro-processing of oranges, lychees, bananas, narkis, avocados, macadamia nuts, and mangoes in the Ehlanzeni regions, mangoes and bananas in the Buhlabela region, peaches, plums, and maize in the Nkangala region, and timber and maize in the Garsibanda region in Mpumalanga. The EFF would build and support the cultivation of agro-processing of sunflowers and maize in the Ngaka Modiri Mulema region, cattle and poultry farming in the whole of the Northwest province, and cattle farming in Taung. We would build and support the cultivation of agro-processing of grapes and onions in the Cape Winelands region, increase the production of wine, cattle and sheep, livestock and grapes in the Central Karoo, West Coast and Overberg regions in the Western Cape province. The EFF government would also increase the production of potatoes, onions and animal productions in the West Coast region and livestock production in the Overberg region in the Western Cape. This would also include abalone, especially in Hermanus in the Western Cape. The EFF government would ensure that young and emerging Black farmers in all these agricultural developmental nodes are prioritized and receive technical and financial support. The EFF would ensure that a minimum of 50% of them are women. These are EFF policy positions that the media will not show you. And we are giving them to you free of charge, absolutely free of charge. But there is no EFF government today. Yet, what we have is Mr. John Steenhuisen, who has absolutely no idea on how to bring about agricultural development and land justice. Sadly, not even a UNISA degree can save him because his commitment rests on adorning apartheid colors and giving jobs that belong to educated youth to illiterate racists who rely on their skin color to secure jobs and stolen land. We are grateful as the youth of South Africa that a vehicle with ideological clarity like that of the EFF actually exists. We are grateful that in the midst of those who conveniently forget that this sector is formulated on vicious crimes against humanity, the EFF exists to rectify and steer our nation towards justice. This not just in speech. We do actual land occupation programs. An idea that is here to stay. Economic freedom in our lifetime. My boy! Africa! Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Party is dying.